Hello everyone, how's it going? How's it going? Hello, hello Mirror. Howgie with the first, no shot. Hello Gary, and hello Silas. Hello Silas. You're eating dinner, so you might miss the first few minutes. I'm sure that's fine. I think I mostly troubleshooted this, but maybe I didn't. We'll see. Hi! Hi! Umi on my neko until wait, what did you say was in the greenhouse? What'd you say was in the greenhouse? Yeah, the charm, the temple charm. Oh my god. Well, I don't know if I would say I'm not being crushed anymore, but I would say I need to find the bodies in the shed. I literally need to find the bodies in the shed. So that's where we are right now. Um let's switch over to, yeah, Umineko. Uh, yeah, in here, load. Okay, we're back. We are, oh my god, coming back right in the thick of it. Man, it's been so long. Um, I'm gonna scroll back like 20 bits. Man, the clock ticking, the atmosphere. Okay, so they're hungry. Natsuhi, yeah. Oh my god, Kanan's being strange and suspicious. Let's check out the storehouse. Okay. I can't believe I left it here. Okay, we ball. We literally ball. Kanan dashed off to the servant room and returned with the key. Genji left the parlor, saying that he would go check. But then Ava and Hideyoshi followed after him. Oh shit! Umineko returns! Yeah, we're about to find the bodies in the shed! Isn't that exciting? I can't believe this is where I left off last time. Yeah, Umineko literally returns. Oh my god. What was this? Something strange about the storehouse that had caused the usually fearless Kanon to hesitate. I think it's so interesting that he's described as usually fearless. It was still pouring outside, but perhaps their curiosity over this something that Kanan couldn't talk about won out. I know, right? Here of all places? While the children made a big fuss watching television, Kanan and the rest dashed over to the entrance. The Rose Garden storehouse was a place that housed various tools used to manage the garden. It was definitely not a pretty building. Because of its appearance, it had been built so that it was hidden in a corner of the Rose Garden. Kanan, Genji, Ava, and Hideyoshi came cutting across the Rose Garden holding umbrellas. Okay, we go and take notes again. So, Kanan, Genji, Ava, and Hideyoshi head to the Rose Garden storehouse. They entered a small path just off the Rose Garden, which was normally off limits for those appreciating the garden, and only used by those maintaining it. As they dashed down that, the storehouse came into view in front of them. The music. The singular, eerie chime. It was quite an old shed, and compared to the flawlessly perfect beauty of the Rose Garden, it was pretty seedy looking. It was easy to understand why it had been built in a hard-to-see place. and why it might be the perfect place to kill someone. Ava and Hideyoshi arrived at the storehouse long after Kanan and Genji. Why are they slow? Are they just like... Do they just not know their way around? Oh my god, I forgot the voices I did for everyone. You two sure are fast. Thought my heart was gonna explode. I never knew they had a storehouse way over here. But what is that? Oh my god, okay. When Ava looked where Kanan was pointing, she was at a loss for words. Noticing this, Hideyoshi was also followed Kanan's finger and was likewise too shocked to speak. The entrance to the storehouse was a kind of shutter. Oh, and there's blood seeping out from underneath it. There, everyone suddenly realized why Kanan had been unable to find words to describe what they now saw. On the shutter, which was completely filthy from being exposed to wind and rain for so long, stuck right on it, there was something that looked like a strange, dark red liquid? Question mark? Mucus? Or maybe it was some sticky paint. An indescribably eerie shape was drawn on the shutter with some kind of ghastly substance. The rain had caused it to drip down like fresh blood leaking from an open wound. No more beating around the bush. Okay, let's take notes. Shutter of the storehouse had a, I mean, I think it's fine to take images as quote unquote canon. Like, I think it's true that this is what it looked like. I don't think they could lie about that. I will say a ritual circle. Painted in red substance. Me, certainly that must be blood, so like the paint thinner in my inventory must be completely irrelevant moment. Red substance, hashtag my red substance. Some kind of mark was drawn there, with a ghastly substance that looked like blood, in a shape that seemed to suggest something ominous. 2 circles were drawn there, and inside them was a design that looked like a cross. The 4 ends of the cross were widely exaggerated, and it looked like some kind of crest from somewhere around Europe. Ritual circle, parentheses, European origins? Question mark? It's so interesting that they keep emphasizing the, like, Western influences in like, you know, in Kinzo's, like, preferences and how, like, the kids are named, in the witchcraft. It's, like, so much of it is, like, these European elements, but it's taking place in Japan. And I'm like, is this a metaphor? I can't wait. What if it's a metaphor? And the cracks between these shapes, written closely packed together, were some unfamiliar characters, or possibly symbols. What a vulgar bit of graffiti. Could this be one of those? One of those magic circles used in demonic ceremonies? Maybe, dude. It wasn't surprising that Hideyoshi would say that about such a ghastly shape, drawn with a deep red, dripping substance. When was this made? There was nothing drawn here when I came by yesterday, before it started raining. We must do something before anyone else sees this. If they laid eyes upon it, it would cause them great discomfort. Okay, okay. Hold, save. Let's, add and... Sorry. Is this an event? I forget. Insert text. Hold on. Okay. Nothing yesterday before it started raining. Sir? Tampering with the evidence? Well, you put it like that. Kanon attests there was nothing on the shed when he came by before it started raining yesterday? I forgot when it started to rain. I'm not even sure if I wrote down when it started to rain, but that's fine. Even though that's literally just his job and how he views this, it's an unsightly mess to fix. It's literally an unsightly mess to fix. That's right. Even though it's just a shed, I wouldn't want to leave such an unpleasant piece of graffiti alone for even a second longer than I had to. There is some paint in the storehouse. Let us paint over it temporarily as an emergency measure, then repaint it again someday when the weather is good. Genji remembered that he had just recently seen another scribble, and that it too had been made with a strange dark red substance of the same color as this. Yes, on Natsuhi's door. That must have been... That's right! He had seen it on the door to Natsuhi's room. Kanan-kun, let's remove the scribble quickly and go back, okay? Even though it's just a storehouse, it's really irritating to have graffiti around the home I was brought up in. Yes, ma'am. I'll take care of it immediately. Kanan squatted in front of the shutter and unlocked it. He then lifted it up with all of his strength. Kanan-kun! A boisterous noise resounded, and the eerie shape drawn on the shutter began to get sucked in through the top as the shutter was raised. At least for the time being, that ominous drawing disappeared from their direct gaze, and they all breathed a sigh of relief. Thanks to a kids program they came across, Maria was feeling much better. Badler and Jessica were poking fun at the kids' show at every turn, cackling together. the tonal whiplash. George was enjoying the program with Maria from her perspective. Nanjo sat on a sofa by himself, passing the time by reading quietly. They heard hurried footsteps coming from the hallway. They were the footsteps of a single person. Oh. Let's add a new... This one? Yeah, let's add a new one, because that one was getting a bit long. Back in the building. Well, the body is being discovered. Bodies are being discovered. So true. Okay. Battler, or, well, I guess, okay, Maria, Battler, Jessica, George. Are watching children's show on TV. Nanjo is chilling on the sofa, and we hear someone's footsteps. Did that mean it wasn't the group of 4 that had just left? Footsteps are of one person are heard. Not Kanan, Genji, Ava, or Hideyoshi. So who's left? Natsuhi? It was Genji. Genji's coming back. It was very rare for Genji, who considered being out of breath a violation of servants' virtues. Genji returns. To be gasping for air. He had probably come dashing back from outside the mansion. His shoulders were soaking wet, and he didn't have his usual trim appearance. When Genji noticed Nanjo looking at him, he gave a small, silent bow and quickly approached him. Dr. Nanjo, my apologies. Please, come with me quickly. What is the matter? As Genji whispered something into Nanjo's ear, Nanjo went pale. He rose from the sofa, trying not to be noticed by the children, who were still engrossed by the TV, and the two of them rapidly left the parlor, muffling their footsteps. Just as they were about to exit the parlor, they came across Natsuhi, who was pushing a servant cart loaded with a tea set. For Nanjo, the doctor, they run into Natsuhi. God, I love this. I love the way they cut it off, and then he comes in looking for a doctor. That is such good, like, subtle writing. That's so good. Like, if I, you know, I know there's bodies in the shed because I watched Umi 101, but, like, if I didn't, I think this is just, like, such a great way to, like, ease into that topic and that possibility, right? Has there been murder? Oh, Genji just came back in to get Nanjo. They lifted the shutters, and now they're running into Natsuhi. It's so exciting. It's so exciting. My body's in the shed! Soaking wet, unkempt, soggy. Genji whispered something into Natsuhi's ear, and Natsuhi went pale too in apparent shock. Then, leaving the servant cart where it was, the three of them dashed towards the entrance. George noticed them running down the rose garden through the window. What's that? Isn't that Genji-san and Dr. Nanjo, and that's Aunt Natsuhi, isn't it? What's up, Anki? Maybe something happened. They look terribly flustered. When Jessica and Maria saw that Ava, Hideyoshi, and Nanjo were no longer in their seats, and that the serving cart had been abandoned in the entrance to the parlor, They also realized that something was the matter. The Genji equivalent of screaming. No, 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 nothing happened. Go back to sleep, go back to sleep. Could there have been some kind of accident? I forgot how I did Jessica's voice, damn it. Let's go check it out. It's no fun if we're the only ones left out, right? For some reason, what Battler said sounded extremely indiscreet. But they couldn't deny that they were a little insecure and concerned after seeing the adults run off into the rain without regards to their appearance. Let's check it out, okay? I'm worried something might have happened. Jessica's uneasy words spoke for all of them. Hey, Maria, are you coming too? Or will you watch TV? Wanna watch TV? Let's go on without her. Maria-chan, we'll be back soon. We keep watching TV, okay? Okay, so, who runs off with them? Kids notice something is off. George, Battler, and Jessica go out to check what's going on while Maria stays behind and watches TV. By the time the kids made it outside, the adults were no longer in sight. But Jessica seemed to have a pretty good idea where they'd gone, judging by the direction they'd been running. Following Jessica, we ran through rain-soaked Rose Garden. The wind seemed to suddenly get stronger. The malicious sound of thunder began to rumble like it had the previous night. So true, the wind and thunder, so true. It felt like an eerie something had surrounded the island and was trying to stop us from moving forward. Interesting way to describe it. Something eerie had surrounded the island. And this, what a fascinating way to phrase it. It was trying to stop us from moving forward. That is just such a fascinating way to phrase it. It's like low-key chessboard. Jessica! Is there something over this way? I'm pretty sure there's a shed for gardening tools or something. What in the world could be going on in a place like that? Just as Jessica had said, they began to see a storehouse in front of them. A shed for bodies, more like. They could also see the adults there. The shutter to the storehouse was open, and several adults looked as though they were searching for something. For some reason, only Natsuhi was outside the storehouse. Without even holding an umbrella, she looked like she was hanging her head, and her back was facing them. Interesting. There is Genji, Nanjo, and Natsuhi, who had just left the mansion. Jessica just kind of knowing about the storehouse? Yeah, I think it makes sense because she, like, lives there, right? She lives here. So, like, this is her house, right? So she knows there's a building here. Unlike the rest of them, I think it makes sense they don't know. But I think Jessica knowing makes sense because she literally lives here. The ones who'd left earlier, Kanan, Ava, and Hideyoshi, were also there, making for a small crowd of people. But there was absolutely no bustle of activity. When Natsuhi realized that the children were approaching, A terrible expression rose to her face, and she ran at them with her arms spread wide. You mustn't come any closer! Go back to the mansion! But despite that, no, because of that, the kids saw the scene Natsuhi was trying to keep them away from. Inside the storehouse, with its shutter wide open, a faint fluorescent light shone down. And right there was... Jessica's piercing shriek rang out. But that's just because Jessica's scream was the loudest. The same thing spilled out of Battler and George's mouths as well. Yes, the tunes! Fuck yeah! It's kind of giving pathologic, you know, a little bit. Ava spread her arms just like Natsuhi, roaring at the kids with a bone-chilling expression on her face. George, take everyone and return to the mansion! Quickly! Right now! When Natsuhi spread her arms, I thought she was trying to prevent us from advancing any further. But that wasn't why Ava was spreading her arms right now. She was trying to stop us kids from seeing that terrible scene. It was her mother's heart trying to protect the eyes and hearts of us children by blocking our view of that terrible scene by at least the width of one of her arms. My song! Yes! Yes! Is this some kind of joke? Is it? I'd seen this kind of cheap scene all too often. In manga, TV, anime, and movies. I'd seen it over and over again. It's just seeing something appear in real life that I'd seen plenty of times before in some of those more sensational movies, right? That alone shouldn't... but that suit... It's that old bastard's, isn't it? Got it. And that's Uncle Kraus. And Kiryu-san and Aunt Rosa. Oh! Dad! Dad! You mustn't, Jessica! You mustn't go in! You mustn't look! Dad! Dad! It's literally just a joke. It's literally just a joke. Early Halloween. He died. He's just meditating. He's just meditating. Rigor mortis has set in almost the entire body. Most likely. 6 hours or more have passed since death. Okay, time to take notes. Nonjo's assessment. Oh, this song is banging. As far as I can tell by looking at the damaged area, there's a high probability that they were damaged after their deaths. Tampering with bodies after death? Tampering... and mutilation of bodies after death. Doctor, shut up! More than 6 hours of rigor mortis set in despite cold temps. Literally a midnight recital with the goated analysis. It's literally cold. You know, that's funny. That's funny. I'm gonna write that down. Midnight recitals insight? It's literally cold? It's probably more than Also, yeah, you can tell if damage occurred after death because no bruising occurs. So true. A golden slaughterer sweep? Literally. No, I must watch what I say. I'm a general practitioner! Examining corpses is outside my area of expertise! So what's going on here? Just killing them wasn't enough? So they went on to do something like this? The devil! This here's the work of the devil! Aunt Natsuhi caught Jessica in her arms, and Aunt Ava caught George on Key. So I was the only one who could approach the entrance to the storehouse. Literally, Doctor, please be so for real. The kids are literally here. You can't just say shit. If only there had been someone there to catch me too, I wouldn't have needed to have this horrible, evil scene burned into my eyes. No, that's not it. It isn't that there's no one here to catch me. The people who should catch me, they're right there, aren't they? Just as Jessica said, it did look like a storehouse for gardening tools. A lawnmower with extra blades, a grass sickle, and a hammer. Some carpentry tools such as a saw. Piled up potted plants and bags of fertilizer. And treated just the same, the corpses of several people had been laid to rest there. No, had been tossed in there. I could tell them by their clothes. Old Bastard and Kyrie-san, Uncle Kraus and Aunt Rosa. Beyond that, Boda-san and... There's still more of them? How many people died? Fucking kidding me. More than I can count on one hand. Damn it! That is a huge list. Okay, so... Rudolph, Kyrie, Kraus, Rosa, Goda... So who else is there, Battler? Help me out here. I didn't know whether it had been one of these gardening tools, which, if used for something other than their intended purpose, could definitely be wielded with a naked brutality, or whether some horrible tool had been brought in here specifically for this. Literally no one was there to hold him! Hashtag kills myself! Anyway, each one of the bodies jammed in here had been given an atrocious makeup. It wasn't makeup, it was more like their faces had been plowed. Their faces were smashed, forced into expressions that normal people couldn't make even after death. I couldn't tell where the eyes or the noses were, but I could find their mouths, because they were gaping wide, their gums exposed. But their front teeth were missing, and even the cheeks that should have covered all this were all torn up and laid bare. That trendy makeup you always spent so much time on, even though you're a man, isn't doing a thing now. Dad! I always thought you were going to hell, but still, not like this, right? You weren't such a son of a bitch that you should have to suffer so brutally. And curious that I tell you to stop going out with this guy. There's absolutely no reason for you to end up like this too. They've got no faces. No faces. Damn it. Atlas, son, you mustn't look anymore. There's no way your mother and father would want you to see them like this. For their sakes, you mustn't look anymore. Dead people are supposed to have faces that look like they're sleeping peacefully, right? They got no faces. My dad and Carrie-san have no faces. I don't even know what kind of faces they were wearing when they died. What's wrong with me? I have to see these smashed monster-like faces every time I remember them. That's just great. I didn't want to remember that old bastard's smug face anyway. Just great. Just great. But why even Carrie-san's face? Carrie-san wasn't a crook. Sure. She'd take me off a bit now and then. But she was like a cool big sister to me. This is wrong. This is all wrong. At least Uncle Krause does it better, doesn't he? It's not his whole face. Just the side. At least he's got half his face left, right? That's still better. That's still better. No. Oh, that's Jessica. My bad. No. Jessica filled her ears with the sound of her own screaming, trying to shut out my reckless words. Yeah, Battler! You're just saying shit. His cope. He really has so much to say. Goto was literally just the chef. He was just chilling. Yeah, even though you're a man, Lamau. Thank you. I love voice acting. At least Krause is dead in a better way. Look on the bright side. Who is saying this? Is this... I think this is Nanjo, right? Ugh. Ooh, stop it, Battler-kun. Just stop it. Wait, who is this? Or is this Jessica? Does Jessica call him Battler-kun? Yeah, Golda culprit theory. Is it dead? What if Goto just killed everyone and then himself? We haven't seen Goto's body. Wait, is this Battler? Aniki. Oh, he's talking to George? We will see. Aniki! I don't know who's talking. I need to scroll back. Okay, I think the top line is Jessica. I think the second line is Battler, who is keep going, who continues. Stop it! Battler-kun! Just stop it! Aniki! Disregarding age and appearance, I fell to my knees, clinging to Aniki's waist and sobbing. It was as if I was crying on behalf of everyone there. Representing the feelings of everyone there, I screamed over and over. Wait, hold on. System. Wow, I like that they're marked red. That's so funny. Oh my god, this is great. Oh, and they even have like the half of the face and everything. Interesting. Oh, and the text updated. His corpse was found inside the Rose Garden storehouse. His face seemed to have been smashed after death. He has a right to lament his ill fortune. It's so true. Hold on, what if jealousy over Shannon and Cannon pushed him to do it? I shan't say anything. Something something color theory, so true. Her corpse was found inside the Rose Garden storehouse. Her face seems to have been smashed after her death. She was chosen by the demon's roulette. That's all there is to it. His corpse was found inside the Rose Garden storehouse. The direct cause of death is unknown, but it seems the side of his head was smashed after his death. This is the beginning of everything. Interesting. 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 Well, we haven't seen these two bodies, so let's not look at them now. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So interesting, so interesting. There's 12 of them here. There's 12 Ushiromiyas. That's so interesting. 12 is such an interesting number. Bible-pilled enjoyers will know that Jesus Christ had 12 disciples. That was just a stray thought I had. I screamed over and over. So true. Yeah, these character profiles remind me of my favorite children's hospital. So true. Face not smashed in. Well, okay, let's look at the let's okay, because we didn't end up seeing Rosa and that's so interesting. That's so interesting. Isn't this so interesting, guys? Can anyone hear me? Isn't this so interesting? Her corpse was found inside the Rose Garden storehouse. Her face seems to have been smashed after her death. I'll get to see her again, so I don't feel lonely. Isn't that so interesting? Can anyone hear me? It's so interesting. I can hear you, literally. Right? What a fascinating spot, right? So interesting. His corpse was found inside the Rose Garden storehouse. His face seems to have been smashed in after his death. How unfortunate. Apparently, he was originally supposed to be on duty in the guest house. Interesting. It's so interesting. I think you actually talked about this in your video where you were like, it says this, so it feels like Maria is writing these, or at least Maria wrote this. So interesting. Father. I forget who George is. George is Hideyoshi and Ava's kid. Father, the ones lying over there are Uncle Kraus, Uncle Rudolph, Aunt Kyrie, and Aunt Rosa, and Goda-san. Just those 5. Right? Right? No. There are 6 people. There's one more person over there. The body Hideyoshi was looking down on now happened to be hidden among the shadows in that mountain range of objects, in a blind spot to George, who stood by the entrance. So George couldn't tell whose body it was. So George cursed himself. He cursed the fact that his worst guesses always turned out to be right. So, the one lying at your feet is Sh- Shannon, isn't it? Oh god, I hope it's not my favorite character, Shannon! Yes, it's Shannon Chan. He's literally crying. George felt completely silent. He shook slightly, his lower lip trembling. Normally, he would have wanted to run to his beloved's body, screaming and crying. However, before rashly rushing forward, he worked to keep his composure and asked his father, "Is Shannon the same as Uncle Kraus and the others?" His glasses fog. His glasses fog. Hideyoshi deeply understood the meaning of those words, so he couldn't give George an immediate answer. Or rather, he felt that silence was the only sincere and loving response he could give George right now. When George asked if Shannon was the same, he meant to ask whether her corpse was in the same condition as the others or not. Since Hideyoshi hadn't denied it, it meant her corpse was in the same brutal state. Actually, let's discuss Goda again. Like, enough about Shannon. Because what motive for Shannon could possibly exist here? That correlates with anyone else here. Right? Right? George is having his moment, okay? Like, we all agree George needs to die, but he's having his moment here. Can I look at Shannon? No, you can't. Why not? After all, I won't be able to see Shannon's face again, right? So, why won't you let me see what her face looked like at the end? The last time you met Shannon Chan was yesterday, right? Yes. I see. When you left her, what kind of face was she showing you? It was a wonderful smile. After he handed her the ring, she hesitated, even though she must have already made up her mind. Then, she looked bashful and ran away because she was embarrassed to let him see her face looking like that. That's the expression that was revived in George's mind. I see. Then I'm sure Shannon Chan would want you to I'm sure Shannon Chan would want you to want to leave you with that smile in your memory. Hideyoshi looked down upon Shannon's body lying at his feet. I didn't know Shannon dies! I didn't know! George can have one moment. Just like the other bodies, it was in such a horrible state that it would make anyone want to cover their eyes. Her head had been smashed in from the side, and no more than half of her expression remained. If the remaining blood-soaked half of her expression had been wiped clean, would that graceful smile of hers still have peeked out? But only half of it. Without thinking, Hideyoshi slapped his hand over his eyes. How brutal. If her face was going to be crushed anyway, then if only all of it had been crushed, he might have been able to temporarily distract George from his pain by making the pathetic suggestion that it was someone else wearing Shannon's clothes. But half of her face had been left untouched. It caused the body so much humiliation, while still proving beyond doubt that the body was Shannon's and no one else's. How inhuman. How brutish. Good thing Kanan didn't have to see her like that. And there, trying his best to burn the image of the remaining half of Shannon's expression into his eyes as she lay at Hideyoshi's feet, was Kanan. Kanan was not crying. Tears had risen to his eyes, but they did not drip down. But that didn't mean he wasn't feeling as much sadness as everyone else. Losing Shannon, who had lived with him in the same orphanage, whom he had loved as a sister, must have been just the same as losing a blood relative. George, I'm sure Shannon-chan is saying thank you. She must be glad you didn't end up seeing her in such a pitiful state. I'm sure she's thanking you for holding strong and showing restraint. I understand. I understand, Father. I understand. George leaned against the outside wall of the storehouse, crouching down limply. Father, I have a request. What is it? I want you to look for me. Is there a ring on Shannon's finger? A ring? Let me see. Hideyoshi crouched down. As he did, Kanan silently pointed to one of Shannon's hands. Yeah, there is. It's a diamond ring with a valuable diamond. Must have been pretty expensive. And which hand? Which finger is it on? The ring finger of her left hand. I see. So, Shannon-chan was engaged? George, don't tell me you... Eva! That doesn't matter right now. A man made a lifelong promise to Shannon-chan. A man promised her happiness for life. Who that man was isn't the issue here. Is this George? George, this is no longer about you. Let's talk about Kanan. Ava moment. Not now, girl. Not now, girl. George. Oh my god, George. Being told that by a man is a woman's dream, isn't it? Wait, who is this? Oh, is this still, I think this is still Hideyoshi. Being told that by a man is a woman's dream, isn't it? I don't know when she received this ring. I also don't know who gave it to her. However, even so, Shannon Chan took this ring. Then she accepted it and put it on her left ring finger. I'm sure the man who gave it to her was also happy. To most of the people there, Hideyoshi was simply disturbed by this extraordinary situation and was blurting out nonsense. Think it's, yeah, totally a woman's dream. However, someone who knew of George and Shannon's true relationship would understand the full meaning of those words. I see. Thank you, Mother. George stood up. The traces of tears still streaked his face, but his expression had returned to its usual calm one. Let's go, Battler-kun. Jessica-chan? If we stay here any longer, we'll get in the way of the adults. You're right. Jessica sniffled once, showing her face to her mother, who had been holding her the whole time, to let her know she was okay now. When she faced George again, she once again had on her usual expression, although she still couldn't smile. Battler, hang in there. Battler kept on crouching in front of his parents' bodies. His face! Are we seeing this? Are we seeing Battler's face? Are we seeing this? George, you are also an adult. But I think in the situation here, he's like the adult who's supposed to be taking care of the kids, if that makes sense. You know, the chaperone. I'm sorry. Crying like hell calmed me down. You bastard. Dad, I bet you're laughing at me. After all that shit I just talked about you. Here I am, crying like a baby just 'cause you died. Well, so what? I guess I just got the gene that makes you cry when your parents kick the bucket. Battler's face was still bright red from the tears, but he had at least recovered enough to fake a smile, if only a bitter one. His face! Kanon, you mustn't remain here any longer either. Take the children and return to the mansion. Natsuhi had been standing under the rain this whole time, unable to take a step into the storehouse. That is so interesting. Natsuhi, like the shutter, right? The shutter. The magic circles, like, painted on the shutter. And I'm wondering whether, like, she can't go into the storehouse because she still has the scorpion charm on her. Maybe she had her own way of grieving, different from Battler's. She's a witch. Oh my god, so true. She's literally a witch. Realizing that she had to take on a role of responsibility now that her husband was dead, she gave Kanon those orders. Yes, Madame. Kanon rose silently and turned to face me. His face was pure white, almost as though his own heart had died along with Shannon, and there was no life in his expression. On an ordinary day, if he had been told to guide the children through the beautiful rose garden, Kanon might have led the way. But now, there was no distinction between Kanan and the children. They were now just kids of about the same age, suffering the pain of losing those close to them. After making sure that the children were leaving, Natsuhi started giving orders to Genji. I stopped taking notes. I got so locked in. That's okay, King. I'll just fill in the stuff. You know how it is. Genji, contact the police immediately. They probably won't be able to come until the typhoon passes. They should be able to tell us what to do next. Understood. There is an emergency radio, so I will use that to contact them. When she heard that, Natsuhi remembered. That's right. The phones were out today, weren't they? However, they also had a radio since they couldn't necessarily rely on phones all the time while living on an isolated island. At any rate, they should start by contacting the police and receiving their instructions. Everything else could wait. Dr. Nanjo, is there anything more you can do here? Unfortunately, there is nothing I can do. Understood. Genji, could you at least cover their faces with something? Exposing them like this is humiliating to them as well. Yes, ma'am. Genji picked up several dried towels from inside the storehouse. Even when Ava stopped him with a shrill voice. Wait a second! Stop! This is the scene of the crime, isn't it? Then we mustn't disturb it. We all panicked and walked in here with our shoes on, but even that will surely get in the way of the police's investigation, right? So true. Ava speaking sense. Ava saying what Gary said, like, an hour ago, tampering with that crime scene. Natsuhi glared at Ava, offended. Objectively speaking, Ava was right. But, like, you don't like getting accused of trying to tamper with the crime scene, right? Even so, she glared at Ava as though accusing her of refusing to do those tragic corpses, which had been humiliated even after death, the simple kindness of covering their faces. However, Ava had spoken both calmly and correctly. This horrible situation definitely wasn't an accident. I was so locked in, I forgot this was like a real crime. I was like, we'll solve it before the police gets here. So true. It was a crime. Someone had killed them. It was a murder case. So, they needed to be careful to avoid disturbing the site any further. They had to do what little they could do to aid the police, preserving clues that might help catch the detestable culprit. I agree with Ava-san. Until the police come, we should leave everything be. What do you say, madame? You're right. Very well. Close it up. And, just in case, we should put a different lock on it. A different lock? Yes. When we came here, the shutter was locked. That means the culprit used the key to the shutter to lock it. That makes sense. So, does that mean the key that opens the shutter will have the culprit's fingerprints on it? Well, no, because they took the key again, so it would just be Kanan's prints on it, I think, because Kanan opened the shed, right? I'm sure it'll be worth submitting it to the police as evidence, but Kanan-kun usually has it, and he used it to unlock the shed just now. It'll probably have Kanan's fingerprints on it. Also, that key was handed to Genji-san just now, and he took it with his bare hands. It doesn't look like it'll be very useful as evidence. That was careless of me. My apologies. Genji-san, are there any other keys to this storehouse? No, only this one. So, the culprit walked out of the servant room with that key and then was nice enough to return the key to where they found it. Hideyoshi's theory sounded plausible, but it was actually very strange, if you thought about it. Why would they go to all the trouble of returning a key they stole? Natsuhi suggests putting a new lock on the shutter door. I love this diagram, by the way. The shutter lock was in the servants' room, but then that begs the question of why did they want to delay the finding of the bodies, right? Key to the shutter lock was in the servant's room, but when Kanan went to well. I have to watch this part back. Because it's possible that... Because, okay, servants' quarters, right? Who are the servants? These five are the servants, right? If Shannon and Goda were killed, then the only people who are accessing the servants' quarters are Kumasawa, Kanon, and Genji, right? And so, like, if... I'm thinking silently. Unless there's someone whose coming and going to the servant area is normal/expected. And the phone line's being taken down too. They wanted the bodies to not be found immediately, but then put a red substance on the shed to draw attention to it. The silent thinker. Because we're told we didn't see Kanon get the key. It's implied that Kanan came to get the key. But it's possible. It's possible that he had the key the whole time, right? But something weird has happened in the shed. And if he had the key the whole time, he would be implicated, right? So even if he didn't do it, I can see him coming back, pretending to get the key, and then discovering the bodies with everyone else, right? I think it's possible that that's what happened. That Kanan had the key on him, went to the shed, cause why would he? I don't remember the. Cause why would? It sounds like. Oh, okay, okay, it's fine, it's fine. I'm going to write that down though. And like, it felt weird, right? Like there's a lot of people missing. Um, so like, I think it would have just been good to have people with him, right? When the shed was opened, right? Mm-hmm. You know, if you think about it even more deeply, there are some points that are even more bizarre. When a criminal hides a body, they're usually trying to delay the point at which it'll be found, so they can use that time to escape. The six weren't necessarily killed here, but it was reasonable to assume that they were killed somewhere on this island, carried to the storehouse, and hidden to delay the discovery of the crime. And yet, the eerie magic circle scribbled on the storehouse shutter had eloquently indicated the location of the hidden corpses. Sure, it didn't explicitly mention the corpses, but six people had gone missing. In that situation, someone had made such an obvious piece of graffiti and even returned the key to the shutter, almost as though they wanted the corpses here to be discovered. Anyway, we can't put all our faith in a lock that the culprit has opened once before. If we want to protect this place from the culprit's hand, I think we should put a new lock on it. I think that is a good plan. I agree. Genji fished around the inside of the storehouse and unsealed a brand new padlock that had been inside a small box. What should I do with the key? I will take it. I will take responsibility and hand it over to the police. Natsuhi took the key to the padlock from Genji's hand. After that, They all exited and lowered the shutter. And so, the corpses were once again sealed behind that shutter, which was still covered with that creepy magic circle. Genji crouched down in front of the shutter to fasten the new padlock. Shutters often have a place in front where you can attach your own lock in addition to the main lock of the shutter. This was one of those types. In the midst of the roar of thunder and the pouring rain, the storehouse stood there ominously. They wanted the bodies to be discovered, but then suddenly wanted them all to be discovered? Well, I think maybe they wanted... The Thinker! With its closed shutter still covered in a blood-like creepy substance, it swallowed up the bodies of the six. To Natsuhi, putting the new lock on wasn't mainly to preserve the scene for the police. She might have felt like she wanted to shut that mouth for all eternity, to prevent that eerie beast from swallowing up any more victims. Come on, let's go, everyone. Dr. Nanjo, thank you very much for your work. Genji, hurry and contact the police. I will do so as soon as I return. The adults left the storehouse. The ghastly magic circle drawn on the shutter kept the six bodies in its throat, booming eerily as the lightning occasionally lit it up. Genji is instructed to radio the police. Okay. Oh, and Maria's kids program. Woohoo. All that could be heard was the sound of the rain, the voices from the kids' TV program Maria was watching, and the engrossed Maria's cackling voice. In other words, what greeted them as they returned dumbfounded from that horrible, bizarre scene was the voice of Maria as she rolled around laughing at the TV. Those who returned to the room didn't know how to explain to Maria that her mother was dead, and were trapped by a suffocating silence. At first, Maria returned their stares with a dubious look, but when she realized they weren't trying to blame her for anything, she ignored them and again immersed herself in the TV program. The children wordlessly sat down heavily on the sofa. Their minds were probably blank from their state of shock. Everyone had already cried and mourned so much, but now they just vaguely sat there, their faces seeming to have lost all emotion. Only Kanan had returned to his usual calm expression. However, that probably didn't mean he'd been able to wipe out the shock. Nothing was reflected in his eyes as he stared into empty space. Hideyoshi kept on fidgeting, and every time he remembered that horrible scene, he started muttering about how he couldn't believe it, how it couldn't have been something from this world, how it must have been the work of demons. Every now and then his mutterings produced a question directed at Nanjo, but the latter kept repeating in a calm, doctor-like manner that nothing could be understood only by glancing at the scene, and that until the police arrived, they wouldn't learn anything. However, Nanjo only appeared calm next to Hideyoshi, who simply couldn't suppress his agitation and fear. In fact, Nanjo had also received a huge shock, and his face was a deathly pale. Maybe that atmosphere was why she tried to rise to the challenge and take charge. Natsuhi appeared to be unchanged from her normal attitude, and she briskly gave directions. I will go see father. Genji, quickly contact the police. Certainly. I wonder if you would allow me to tag along, Natsuhine-san? Oh my god, Ava. Since Krausny-san is now gone, the task of aiding father has been left to me. It would be improper of me to relax here while relying entirely on you. Natsuhi was struck speechless by Ava's aggressive move in a situation like this. She seemed to be claiming that with Kraus dead, the one to take responsibility shouldn't be his wife, but herself, the next highly ranked in the family. The family drama! Or maybe she hadn't been at all happy when Natsuhi took command without reference to her in such an extreme situation. However, even Ava's mind had been blank from shock until a moment ago. She only came to her senses after Natsuhi started giving orders. Just do as you like. Natsuhi started walking without saying a word more. Ava followed behind her. As they did, Kumasawa-san ran into the parlor. Nothing stops the family drama. Yeah, not the familial political moments, literally. She usually wasn't the kind of person to run around, so under normal conditions, most people would have taken her entrance as a sign that something was the matter. But because everyone was still stricken with shock, they hardly even noticed her. Madame. Madame. If you're looking for Natsuhine-san, she went to see father. She'll probably be back soon. What happened, Kumasawa-san? You see, in the dining hall, there is blood. Blood! The ears of everyone in the parlor twitched. Everyone thought the same thing. I hope I misheard that. Granny Chio, so true? Wait a minute. Any container can only hold so much, and no one here would be capable of handling yet another tragedy. So they all thought it. I hope I misheard that. What happened in the dining hall? When I went to the dining hall to set up for breakfast. Oh. The first one to start running was George. His harsh footsteps jogged Hideyoshi and Nanjo to their senses, and they chased after him. Badler and the others followed. Ava insists on going with Kumasawa. It's literally strawberry jam that spilled, don't worry. They flew into the dining hall one after another, but didn't find any change that might have caused Kumasawa to go pale. To those who had viewed that gruesome scene in the storehouse, it was a bit of an anticlimax. However, Kumasawa, who had followed them, pointed it out. There really were some traces of blood remaining on the floor. Compared to that terrible scene, it wasn't very impressive. However, if you calmly thought about it, this definitely indicated the loss of a lot of blood. There's another puddle of blood over there. What in the world?
It appears that a great deal of time has passed. It's probably safe to say that they were killed here last night. It it definitely looks that way. We were talking together in the dining hall until late into the night. After that, someone must have forced their way in.
Oh my god! Hi, Lucy! Hi! We are playing Umineko. We found the bodies. Now we're finding what is presumably the crime scene. Yeah, sorry guys, that was me, just trying to have a midnight snack, so true.
Dad, when did you and Mom slip out of the meeting and go to sleep? Ah, it was a little past midnight, so we should probably assume it happened after that. Are you kidding me? Give me a break. Milady, please stay strong. After seeing that hell on earth in the storehouse, this is nothing. Really, good for you.
I feel like my head's gonna explode. She's sounding like Natsuhi now. Hashtag the headache haver. Let's scroll back a bit. Hideyoshi says, he and Ava left the dining hall around midnight. So it must happen after. This is the dining hall, right? Every day. This is where I'd eat, complain about school, complain about homework, talk to my dad about my grades. That's what this place is to me.
Lady, it wouldn't be good to remain here any longer. Let's return to the parlor. I agree. Uncle Hideyoshi, I think this room will be really important to the police. Don't you think it'd be bad if we trampled all over it?
Battler proposed this in a slightly firm voice as, along with Kanan, he grabbed the pale and shaking Jessica's shoulders. Good morning. I took a crazy nap. Oh my god, I love to see that. Yeah. This is her home. It's her house. 6 people just got killed in her house.
Everything is just as Battler-san has said. There is nothing more to be gained from remaining in this room.
Nanjo spoke while looking at everyone's pale faces. Even though that horrible scene in the storehouse still felt like something not of this world. At least then even though that horrible scene in the storehouse felt like something not of this world, at least then we'd been able to leave, to cut ourselves off from that place and run away. Everyone had shared that feeling. However, this dining hall was different. It was in the mansion, the main building on this estate. And as Jessica had said, it should have been one of the most calming places even inside the mansion. So what is Umineko about? I think it's about, the inheritance of one rich guy, everyone fighting over it, and then murders start to happen. It was where all of the relatives had eaten lunch and dinner yesterday. The shock of seeing this place smeared with blood reminded us of that horrible spectacle in the storehouse, and forced us to accept that we hadn't really been able to run away from the scene of that tragedy. Love! And love! It's literally about love! Literally, inheritance will be that way.
I agree too. The culprit might have left traces in this room. Amateurs like us shouldn't stir the place up. Let's leave quickly. Quickly, quickly! Hideyoshi also understood the meaning of what Battler had said and pushed everyone to hurry out of the dining hall. Everything is about love! The way we were then, looking at that blood any longer would have been too harsh. Nobody went against his words. Everyone raced each other out of the dining hall. It was almost as though the last person in the room would be trapped in there all alone. Once in the hallway, we lent a hand to Kumasawa, who was still trembling and leaning against the wall, and we all headed back to the parlor together. Then Genji returned. Oh, Genji-san, were you able to contact the police?
As to that, I'm afraid I must apologize. I don't know if it was a failure of the radio or something else that caused it, but...
What the? So you couldn't contact the police?
Surprise, surprise! The radio is down. The radio doesn't work. Surprise, surprise, as though this weren't a mansion murder mystery.
I went into Umineko knowing too much, unfortunately, so I am so excited to see your thoughts as the plot unfolds.
Wait, so like you didn't...
Oh, sorry. Riboku and Kidium are the same colors on my screen, and it's also, like, about the same, like, length of text, so I thought the two of you were, like, the same person for, like, a brief moment. I don't know too much, honestly. I know what happens in the first episode or whatever. Are you colorblind? They're both the turquoise to me. I think some of it is, I think if you don't set it manually, it's randomly generated. And I don't know if any of, I don't know. Riboku and Kidium have both consistently been teal to me. The emergency radio specifically designed to function regardless of weather or electrical conditions failing? Suspicious.
Both the phone and the radio failed?
Mine is set on purpose, I think.
My apologies. A boat will be arriving on Monday morning, and I believe we will be able to borrow their communications equipment.
Isn't there a boat on this island? Can't we just take a little trip out to the Nijima Police Department? Hideyoshi-san, that would be impossible with this weather.
Boat sinks?
At the very least, we can't do anything until the typhoon
Sorry. My wires got crossed.
At the very least, we can't do anything until the typhoon passes us by.
Mine looks green to me in chat, but red on your screen. Oh, so true. Oh, they're random then. Shinra apologist, you are red on my screen, and red just feels like a color you deliberately set. I don't know, is that true? I know I deliberately set mine to red. Like, I'm red, right? I'm literally red. You're green! Oh yeah, you are green on the screen. Yeah, it's randomly generated then. It's literally random, don't even worry about it. I'm a different green, so true.
Kraus-sama's boat is being repaired and is not on the island. Therefore, we must wait for the boat coming on Monday.
I'd set it to purple or pink if I was picking. And you can pick. I think they have a very lovely purple. They do have a lovely pink too, now that I think about it.
How could this happen? 6 people are dead. The phones and radio aren't working, and there's no boat. So until the typhoon passes and the boat comes, in other words, until tomorrow morning, we're gonna be stuck here on this island, unable to contact the police, aren't we? Which,
is this still Hideyoshi?
which means that not just us, but the criminal who killed everyone is also confined to this island.
Boat coming on Monday gets blown up or something. Or everyone just gets killed before then.
That certainly follows. The culprit who killed everyone is still here on the island. So the bastard who killed Dad and the others must still be hiding somewhere, unable to escape. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! I'll catch that bastard. No way I'll hand him over to the police. I'll slice him to bits myself.
Maria! Maria mentioned, hi Maria. That would be crazy. Maria finally realized that something odd was happening in the parlor. Rather than noticing something odd, it was probably better to say she felt unhappy and neglected, since everyone was getting so excited about something only she didn't know about.
Jessica One-chan, did someone die?
I decided to download the app and I literally already had a different account. Wait, Wusi-core, are you still Shinra apologist or... Yeah, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense, that makes sense. They need to have some idea of who did it before that boat gets here, but at the same time, you never want to be trapped on an island with a mass murderer. Yeah, Maria! The way she... Oh, sorry. I didn't deliver that well.
Jessica One-chan, did someone die?
The way she spoke was completely calm, just as though she was talking about someone who had appeared on a television drama, as though it was someone else's problem. Jessica probably didn't like that. As though trying to say, can't you tell? Just by looking at me overwhelmed with grief, she flared up at Maria. They all died! Everyone! My dad and Battler's parents! Koda-san and Shannon! And even your mother, too! Oh my god, Jessica! You can't just say that! Stop it, Jessica-chan. You aren't the only one who's sad. Maria-san, I know this will come as a shock, but please listen. Your mother has died.
Mama died?
Yeah, someone killed her. I know it's sad, but stay strong. Incredible way to deliver the news, literally.
How many people died?
6 people! 6 people!
Damn it! How could anyone do something that cruel? There's a limit to how cruel you can be if you're human.
I don't know who it is, but the culprit isn't human. There's no way their blood is red. He's just going to say that with all the random people around. Literally.
The culprit isn't human. It's just the... chosen
By the other blank.
So true.
Huh? Hey, Maria, did you did you say something just now?
Maria had just said something, but since the words were so remotely separated from the flow and context of the conversation, I couldn't understand them for a second.
The eat noise.
When I tried to ask her to repeat it again, I was shocked by the sudden sound of Aunt Netsy's loud voice coming from the entrance to the parlor.
The redacted. The redacted. Jessica blows up at Maria when Maria asks if someone died and how many people died. I think it's so funny. Like, normally that's like, you would quirk up your eyebrows at that, right? Like, why do you know multiple people died, Maria? But, like, Maria is clocked into the island, you know? Like, Maria is clocked into the supernatural happenings. Like, she's like, yes, my time is here, the prophecy. Maria.
The culprit isn't human. It's just the asterisk chosen by the... Is Maria like 11? Yeah, she's a kid. Maria's like, oh, okay, that just means it was done by the... just like she's been saying since day one. It looked like Aunt Natsuhia and Aunt Ava had returned from their trip to see grandfather. You can't contact them, even with the radio? If we can't use it at a time like this, why do we even have an emergency radio? My apologies. It was supposed to have been in maintenance inspection. It was supposed to have a maintenance inspection every year. Wait, don't you have one of those boat signaling devices that makes a flashing light? Couldn't you use that to contact the next island?
The shit chosen by the fox. So true. She's like 9, I think.
We do not have such equipment. My sincere apologies. Just then, Kumasawa arrived, pushing a serving cart loaded with breakfast. Since there was no way we'd be able to eat in the dining hall, Hideyoshi had ordered her to take it to the parlor. Why are we eating breakfast here?
Natsuhi-san, I'll tell you later. More importantly, Ava, how was father?
Judging by the fact that he is not with you, it seems like he will not leave his room, not even for a situation like this. Literally being 9 will do that to you. Yeah, she's 9. He wasn't there. The room was empty. Oh my god. Kinzo wasn't even there. The study was empty. Oh my god. And the room was empty.
What the? Where could he have gone at a time like this?
Do you mean to say the master has left his study? That is correct. I was surprised myself. I wonder when he left his room. Do any of you have an idea? Natsuhi looked at Genji and Kanon as she said this. Maybe she was trying to ask whether the servants who served directly under the one-winged eagle, knew of a place he might go. However, it was probably the other way around. Their faces made it clear that those who knew Kinzo best realized even more than the rest how impossible it was for him to leave his room. Googling Umineko BTW. No spoilers. I don't know anything about Umineko, so if you learn more about Umineko, don't tell me.
Emergency radios do need to be inspected, but they have fail-safes that mean they shouldn't just stop functioning altogether from a lack of maintenance. That's sabotage, Genji-sama.
Even we have no idea.
As you all know, within that study, the master had everything, from a place to sleep to a bathroom. I couldn't imagine him leaving that room, except for a significant reason.
In that case, what? Isn't it natural to assume that one of those significant reasons came up?
Yeah, be so careful Googling.
We still cannot be certain that's the case. Anyway, he is a fickle person, so it's possible he went for a walk by himself, unaware of the current situation.
No, he's so aware. He's the most aware guy here, aside from Maria.
If that is the case, then we must act in all haste to tell him what has happened and ask for instructions.
Hi, Haugie. I will literally not say anything. I just wanted to hear you talk, at the risk of sounding a little gay. The homies are all here to hear me speak beautifully.
That's right. Although, I don't want to think about it. It's possible something has happened to him, isn't it?
I'd rather not even consider such a sinister possibility. No one had seen Kinzo since the discovery of those 6 terrible corpses. On top of that, the phones were broken, the radio wouldn't reach anyone, and there was no way to contact the police. Apparently, the typhoon would leave tomorrow and a boat would come. But until then, no one could rely on anyone outside the island, nor could they escape the island. Homo-maxing, so true. The world needs your Ash Ketchum battler, so true. The tragedy had hit everyone so abruptly that they'd lost all their composure. Everyone felt a heavy silence. Everyone was impatient. Even though they needed to do something, they couldn't think of anything. So some of them held their heads in their arms while others got irritated. Load bearing, apparently. So true. Right now, no one could explain what was occurring on this island, Rokkenjima. Oh my god. Oh my god. Kinzo culprit theory? After that, we ate the breakfast Kumasawa-san had made, which felt dry and tasteless. Of course, this was right after something like that had happened. No one felt particularly hungry. However, we understood logically that not eating would weaken our bodies, your material conditions. It would also be rude to Kumasawa-san, who had made the breakfast. Kumasawa-san had taken some unusual Western vegetables, ones that Goda-san had probably ordered for his ultra-elaborate meals, and cooked them in a Japanese style, which made them turn an unpleasant color. As to what Goda-san had been planning to cook with those ingredients, right then, I couldn't even imagine it. Not the old man going sicko mode, so true. Maybe the old man went sicko mode, we don't know. Y'all mind if a girl bimaxes? So true, so true, so true. We have to, bisexual representation is really important. Literally, that's what we need. We need a girl bimaxing. If I did think about it, I'd be reminded of the way Goda-san had died, and a sour taste would fill the inside of my mouth. Everyone pretended to eat for the time being, but of course, no one made much progress. Then, we began pooling our knowledge of our current situation. First off, 6 people, which included Uncle Kraus, my dad, Kyrie-san, Aunt Rosa, Goda-san, and Shannon-chan, had been found in the Rose Garden storehouse as brutally mutilated corpses. For those who are just attending the stream, We are Battler. We are in Battler's head right now. We're experiencing this from Battler's point of view. His dad just got killed. His stepmom also just got killed. And he is part of the Ushiromiya family. This is Kinzo, which is the old guy who was missing from his study. And he has 4 kids, okay? There's the eldest, Kraus, the second, Ava, the third, Rudolph, which is Battler's dad, and the fourth, Rosa. And, so, 3 of the 4 kids have been found dead. Plus 2 of the servants. And yeah, that's like the summary. And yet, we still couldn't contact the police since both the phones and the radio were unusable. So, until the typhoon passed, there was nothing we could do. Furthermore, grandfather, who we might have hoped would be able to show a little leadership in this kind of situation, had disappeared some time ago. It'd be my pleasure to be the token bi girl, lol. So true. I think we actually have quite a number of bisexuals in the chat. There's me. There's Haugi. I believe Midnight Recital is also bi. Is this true? Can anyone confirm? It's kicking me out every time I go back to the Wikipedia, but I do have to say that that this being 1986 explains everything. So true. So true. And me and Shinra apologist. So true. So true. Interesting how the youngest and eldest are dead, leaving the middle girl. And they killed the chef and another servant. Like, what is this assortment, right? We're all bi here. So true. Damn, me too. Yo! We're literally bi-maxing! Except those of us who aren't. Wait, Silas! Silas, are you bi? Silas, are you bi? Also me as well. Yes! Literally, bi, bi flush or whatever. But the gender is a mystery. I don't know what's going on with all that. So true, so true. Silas is kidding him. So yes, we're all. I think all of the chatters today. Oh no, sorry, Mir, I forgot about you. I don't think you're bi, but I'm not sure. Automod held a message for reasons, smart detection. Allow. I will allow Lucy to say gay. My partner Katie is also here and also by hi Katie, bisexual flush, so true. It's definitely like at least 5. A solid third of my comments are just things Katie said, nodding my beautiful head. Thank you for the participation, Katie. My parasocial relationship with Katie. Goda-san hadn't made breakfast, so grandfather's stomach must have been empty. And if he had just been taking a casual walk, we should have been able to hear him whining about how hungry he was by now. And despite that, he hadn't appeared. He's literally hungry. And there was more than a small chance that he'd gotten caught up in this crime. According to my aunts, on the way back from Kinzo's study, they searched for him, calling out on every floor, but were unable to find him. Apparently, Ava and Natsuhi, searched for him in the mansion, but he was nowhere to be found. So he's not even in the mansion, probably. Or, he's dead! He's dead! Breakfast, that sounds perfect at 8 p.m. Katie says it's not parasocial. It's literally real. It's literally real. It's okay. It's okay. We'll let Lucy say gay in the chat. I'm eating ice cream. Oh my god, I want ice cream. A gaggle of buys, a company of buys, a murder of buys. Oh, there's definitely a murder for sure here. Is it still raining? Because like, is he strolling in the rain? Yeah, it's still raining. You see, I don't know if you can hear it. It's the balance of like the music and the sound effects good, because it's still making the rain sounds. Considering the timing of it all, it's only reasonable to assume that this disappearance had something to do with the crime. We figured Dad and the rest were probably killed in the dining hall, and then painstakingly moved to the storehouse. So maybe Grandfather has already been killed, or maybe Grandfather did the killing, and dragged to some strange place which we simply haven't discovered yet. No one actually said it out loud, but this theory seemed extremely convincing. We will go check that all of the windows and doors are locked. We must also conduct a thorough search for Father. The children must remain in this room. Eva-san and Hideyoshi-san, I'm sorry, but please stay here with the children. I'd like to ask you to do the same. I'd like to ask you the same, Dr. Nanjo.
I understand. I will wait here.
My homophobic cat is also here. Oh my god, Storm mentioned, so true. Murder of Buys sounds great for this, so true. But also, unfortunately, also sounds like a hate crime. Oh, it does sound like a hate crime. Yeah, that doesn't sound good. Toast culprit theory? Grandpa culprit theory? Blank culprit theory is my favorite joke. It's funny. It's funny. Killing everyone in the dining hall is crazy. But like low-key it makes sense, cause that's like the time to do it, right? Cause like they were all discussing, and then Eva and Hideyoshi left, and I guess Natsui left because of a headache. Or maybe she was still upset? I can't remember the timeline for that. She ran out upset. No, but that was earlier. So I assume Natsui probably had like a headache. And then, who else? Oh, and then yeah, so like everyone else in the late night inheritance discussion got killed. Their asses got fucking killed. I think it's plausible, right? Like, maybe Goda and Shannon were kind of caught in the crossfire, right? Like, maybe they only intended on killing, the Ushiromiyas, but then maybe the servants found, maybe, like, they found the culprit, and so, like, they had to also get killed. But also, like, the effort of also mutilating their faces is also like, it might be even deeper than that, right? It's probably deeper than that. I think my dog is also bi. He's adding to the vibes. So true. What could be the name for a group of bis then? Yeah, they were collateral. Yeah, but isn't like the Shannon's half face kind of like interesting? Feels symbolic, right? Aunt Natsui followed the servants Genji-san, Kumasawa-san, and Kanan-kun out of the parlor. All that was left was Aunt Eva, Uncle Hideyoshi, Dr. Nanjo, and the four of us children, a total of 7 people.
Let's all stick together and maybe watch some television while we wait. Though I doubt we'll find anything good in the middle of the day on a Sunday. Ha ha!
Uncle Hideyoshi started acting cheerfully, trying to brighten up this gloomy atmosphere. I think Toast is by. Could be. Goda was just cooking or something, and Shannon was there, and maybe they mutilated their faces to hide that they weren't real targets. Ooh, interesting. Garrett cooking up something interesting? Maybe that's why they couldn't bring themselves to completely brutalize Shannon's face. Ooh, canon culprit theory? That's, like, that goes with the key thing we were saying earlier. You know, like, I'm just saying. It goes with the key theory I was saying earlier. Lions move in a pride and lemurs move in a conspiracy. A little bit of both. Not my boy Kanon. Okay.
Good show. Watch it. Watch it. Oh, really? You want to watch TV, Maria-chan? Then come and watch it with your uncle.
Maria was the only one who joined in. Even though Maria had been told of her mother's death, she didn't show the slightest flicker in her emotions. There's literally television to watch. Oh my god. Was it really, like, normal for a 9-year-old girl like Maria to act so much like a very young child? Everyone else's mood failed to improve and they each sank absent-mindedly into their sofas. Both a little bi. My typo's not adding to the plot here. I want to hear MSMM API voice Maria. Okay, we can do that. Especially in the ooze. Okay, we can do that.
Aniki, can I ask you something?
You know, the voice cracking thing, I think, is actually enhancing the Ash Ketchum Battler even more. Because the voice does sit right at, like, where it cracks for me right now. What is it?
Just now in the storehouse.
Battler! You can't say that! Battler! Battler! Don't talk about that right now! Dude!
Just now in the storehouse. You said something about Shannon and a ring. Did you give that to her?
George Aniki didn't answer, but he hung his head and closed both of his eyes. There could be no clear response. Quit it, Battler.
Figure it out yourself. You're right. I shouldn't have asked. That's right. It was me. Last night, I proposed to her. That was when I gave her the ring. I told her that tomorrow, she should put it on whatever finger she wanted as her answer.
Yeah, and I want to hear your voice crack, so we all are on the same page here, I think. Cannot read the room, what's wrong with him? Literally. Get used to this fucking song. Yes, it was a pretty pretentious thing to say. Glad you have some self-awareness, George. And that ring had been on the ring finger of Shannon Chan's left hand. Well, several years ago, Shannon came to me asking for advice about you, George Nissan. I wonder what she could have said. Shannon was always really bad at lying. It was obvious pretty quickly that you were the one she was talking about. She asked whether it'd be okay for her to get close to someone, even though she was only a servant. She asked about what kinds of things boys like, what kind of clothes she should wear to make them happy, lots of stuff like that. Well, I guess you could say I felt envious hearing her say that. So then, she was given an engagement ring, and it all ended right there? Sorry. Oh, okay, I think this is still Jessica. Different people value things differently, but being proposed to by a man, well, it can be the high point of your life, so I'm sure
Last night, I'm sure Shannon was happy. From the bottom of her heart. Happier than she's ever been since the day of her birth. George Aniki sighed deeply without raising his head.
Or maybe tears had risen to his eyes. I love the Kinderklavier. If Kanon did this, I feel like George would have been taken out for this, and Shannon would still be alive. So true? Question mark?
It seems Shannon was on duty in the guest house last night. But because she was too embarrassed to go back to the guest house with me, she went over to the mansion. Think about how Shannon must have felt. When you receive an engagement ring, then no matter how much warning you've been given beforehand, it's perfectly normal to get so excited that your mind goes blank. She must have been incredibly embarrassed. And then Shannon went to the mansion, even though she hadn't been assigned there. Helped Goda-san with his work, and got caught up in this crime. If only I hadn't given her that ring on that day, in that place. Shannon wouldn't have... Saya wouldn't have been caught up in that crime. Aniki, that's the one place where you're wrong. It's definitely wrong. So don't cry anymore.
That's why Shannon and Goto are in the same spot, literally. Wasn't Goto also on duty at the guest house? No, Goto was in the mansion. Goto was in the mansion. So true. Sorry your child bride died, man. Yeah, for the record, Shinra apologist. George is 20. Shannon is like 16. Why is Mr. Green Blazer kind of fine? Like, I don't know anything about him. Shit. I'm afraid he's my type. The child bride aspect making me think this is not the move. Oh, you'd like the glasses guy, Shinra apologist. I think Kanon's actually 14.
Battler-kun, let's leave him be. After Aunt Ava said that, I stopped talking to him. Misplaced words of comfort might actually do more harm than good.
Yeah, and you're so good at misplacing your words, dude. Jessica sat down next to Aniki and put an arm around him. He is the one with the... It is him. It is him. It is him. George is older? Is he? Wait, hold on. Let's save this. I wrote notes. Is, like, George, like, 24 or some shit? George is 23! Uh-oh! We need to cancel George! Let's cancel George! George is fucking 23 and he's trying to marry a 16-year-old girl! George needs to die. It's so much worse. It's so much worse. Literally. Jail. Maybe only Jessica, who had known about Aniki and Shannon's love since the beginning, And who would even discuss that relationship with Shannon could come for Aniki now. I went over to Aunt Ava and sat down in the opposite sofa. Paddler-kun, you really are strong. It looks like you've kept a good hold on yourself.
Well, look! The depth of the love becomes the depth of the wound, right? After all, it's not like how that old bastard died has anything to do with me. I feel bad about Kyrie-san, but, well, she wasn't actually my parent. My. If that's so, you certainly were crying a lot back then. Well, I did think at least that much crying was due as gratitude to the parent who raised me.
The speed of that changeover and that dry tone must have come from Rudolph. That kid would always get violently happy, sad, and angry, but he'd always regain his cool immediately afterwards.
It's nothing like that. I haven't really been able to get over the shock yet. I think the only difference between me and everyone else is the kinds of emotions it stirred in me.
What do you mean? Oh, new song? Oh, the bass. Okay. Oh my god. I've been acting much calmer than George, Aniki, and Jessica. Kyrie is my fave, though. I know. That wasn't because my sadness was any less intense or because I'd already recovered. My sadness was simply getting replaced gradually with a different emotion. Rather than sad, I'd say I'm more pissed off. What bastard did this and where? It's kind of been eating at me that I didn't get a chance to smack him upside the face. Genuinely, it's so funny. Like, Jessica's like, I'm gonna rip him to shreds, I'm gonna fucking kill him! And then, like, Battler's like, I think I like to hit him. He's so measured. Exactly. Curie's bisexual swag is off the charts. She's literally bisexual like the rest of us. That was what I really wanted to do. I couldn't forgive myself if I just sat there, overwhelmed with sadness and hugging my knees.
Since the time Dad and the others were killed, this island has been covered by the typhoon, which means the bastard responsible for this is still somewhere on this island. Yes, that would seem to be the case. I wonder if they're hiding somewhere in that dark forest, even now. I felt like I'd had a very similar conversation with Kyrie-san the night before. That's right. After the letter from the person claiming to be Beatrice, Beatrice appeared at the dinner table last night. We talked about whether or not a 19th person actually exists. Aunt Ava, do you think this murder has anything to do with the letter from Beatrice last night? Ah, that one. Well, I wonder. All of the siblings agreed that the mysterious letter was sent to further complicate the problem of father's inheritance. As to whether that and the case this morning are related, it's impossible to tell at this stage. Huh, was that letter really given to Maria by some witch called Beatrice? How could it be? All of it was a farce devised by father, wasn't it? He made Shannon-chan or someone wear the dress or the portrait and trick Maria-chan, right? Isn't that just the kind of overly intricate prank father would pull? It's pronounced Beatrice. It's Beatrice, but like, I feel like Battler would say Beatrice.
They keep talking about how there might be an unknown person running about hiding, committing the crime, and not anyone within the manor. Certainly, it could not be one of them. In the mansion. Certainly, the killer is outside. Yeah. It's supposed to be Beatrice. Curious.
But last night, I talked with Kyrie-san about whether Beatrice actually exists. And Kyrie-san also said that Beatrice is probably one of the 18 of us.
Isn't that obvious? There's no one else on this island besides us, right? Then there must be someone amongst us who's pretending to be Beatrice.
There's no one else but us on the island, you think?
Obviously, right? Are you saying there could be someone else here other than us? No one is on this island except us. There are only 18 people. So the one pretending to be Beatrice has to be one of those 18. Kyrie-san denied the existence of a 19th person by spinning the chessboard around. I think Kinzo and Maria should get to pronounce Beatrice, but I think everyone should say Beatrice because they're non-believers. My voice acting headcanons. The automod capabilities are impressive. So there's like automod, and then there's like Twitch just like straight up not letting you send something. Like sometimes like it'll get like flagged and I can say it's okay, but other times like they'll be like, no, you just can't say that. It's Jover. Girl, in this typhoon, just chilling in the forest? Like, be so for real. Yes, Maria as well. Yes. Even though Aunt Ava hadn't constructed an argument that complicated, her opinion at least was the same. Except, if that's the case, our situation starts to look very ugly. The killer is one of us. At the time of Beatrice's letter, the whole thing could be passed off as a prank set up by someone or another. However, if we're assuming there's no 19th person, we can't ignore this anymore. In other words,
if there is no 19th person, then the culprit who killed Dad and the others is also one of the 18, right? So, in other words, the person who killed them is one of the people inside this very mansion right now.
Aunt Ava smiled meaningfully. It looked like she thought this conclusion should have been obvious from the very beginning. The culprit carried the bodies of the 6 into the storehouse. But even that was an impressive feat, don't you think? That shutter is always closed and locked, right? In other words, in order to carry them into the storehouse, the culprit would need to unlock the shutter. Understand? But it was locked. It was locked, Battler. Among Us? Among Us? Maria is probably out there watching Blue's Clues, Bluey, but like 1980s. I don't know. And thinking to herself, surely they already know who it is, like I do. It's literally obvious.
Is it possible the shutter was left open by mistake that day?
The servant said it's always kept locked. In other words, unless the culprit took the keys from the servant room, there's no way they could have opened the storehouse.
I wonder if the key in the servant room was the only one.
Genji-san said that was the case, which means the culprit knew where that single key was kept, and took it. And they also had to know that where the storehouse was, right? And the storehouse key. Just now, I watched when Kanan-kun returned the key to the servant room. The wall was packed with keys,
And I don't think a novice would know where or what those keys went to. The culprit was miraculously able to find the storehouse key among all of those. That's fascinating. Let's take notes. Let's take notes. Oh my god.
Badler talks to Ava about the 19th person. Ava says that only someone who knew where the key was kept could have done it. Many! There were many keys. There were so many keys. This is like insider knowledge. Yeah. Kumasawa Genji Kana Natsuhi. Literally.
Furthermore, even though the key didn't have a tag or anything sticking to it, they knew it was the key to the storehouse behind the rose garden. And that means they also knew where the storehouse was. I'll say it even clearer. The culprit knew the inside of the servant room well. Her argument was extremely plain and clear. If the bodies had been found thrown somewhere in the bushes of the rose garden, there wouldn't have been much to go on. However, if there was only one key to the storehouse in the servant room, and it was stored with such a large group of keys, a novice would not be able to tell them apart. This means the culprit was someone who went into the servant room a lot and was familiar with the location of the keys. Making rice, does anyone want some? Come over and get your rice. So true, give me some rice. I also want some rice. Now we're back to my original point of, how did someone access those quarters unseen and draw no attention, to the point they could take it and return it, right? Literally, Kumasawa Genji Kanon Natsuhi. Literally. Literally. The family members didn't normally go into the servant room, so maybe not even Natsuhi, which means that one of the servants is the culprit? I'm sorry, but even I can't tell you any more than that. However, I'll tell you one thing. What's that? It's reasonable to think that the culprits are multiple in number and fairly well armed. They'd have to be, wouldn't they? They had to assault the four in the dining room and kill them, drag a total of 6 bodies all the way to the storehouse beyond the rose garden, and arrange for that disgusting makeup and the graffiti on the shutter. There's no way that a single culprit could carry out all of that on their own. Right? It made sense. It probably wouldn't have been possible for a single person with enough time. It probably would have been possible for a single person with enough time, but it would take so incredibly long. It was probably safe to assume that a significant number of people were involved. And in fact, some of those people involved could be dead, right? Like, it could have been maybe some of the servants and some of the Ushiромiyas who are dead, who conspired to kill some of the other Ushiромiyas, and then together, like maybe, for example, Goda and Kraus get together to kill Rosa and fucking... I'm blanking. Rosa and Rudolph and Kyrie. And then once they reach, once they reach the shed, someone else who didn't get killed kills Kraus and Goda, right? And then, like, Shannon's maybe collateral damage still, right? So some of the people might even be dead. Like, some of the people in the shed might have walked themselves to the shed so they didn't even have to carry that many bodies there. Yeah, this is crazy. This is crazy.
It's probably safe to assume that a significant number of people were involved.
Phew. So what you're saying is that maybe all of the servants were in cahoots. Please keep it quiet, okay? It wouldn't be right to voice mere speculations like this. And if it really is true, what would you do next? They might not let us leave here alive. This is an opponent who had no trouble killing Nisan and the three others. Right now, the only ones I can count on to fight with me are the three in my family and maybe you, which comes to a total of 4 people, right? We're no better off than they were last night. In short, it'd be easy for the culprits to massacre the rest of us. I'd been playing detective with Aunt Ava, trying to expose the person who had killed Dad and the rest before the police did. If only I could cleverly penetrate the culprit's identity and stick the proof in their face. I'd been so sure that, just like in one of those detective movies, the culprit would then give up and surrender. However, the culprit would only surrender if there was no way for them to fight back. The culprits behind the crime scene on the island were far from helpless, and might even be able to massacre all of the remaining people here. And on top of that, this island was like a giant closed room, cut off from the outside world by the typhoon. So they had a full day until tomorrow to kill, scheme, and camouflage themselves. In short, it wasn't a safe atmosphere where we could get very far by playing detective. On the contrary, we were at a stage where we had to be scared stiff, since playing detective might displease the culprits, and cause them to commit another mass murder. I heard a noise. Oh my god! Hi, N! How's it going? Thank you for the follow. We are streaming Umineko. And we're talking about the possible culprits of someone, or of the culprits of the 6 murders that just happened. Well, it's just a possibility, right? But I can't bring myself to trust the servants yet. And that doesn't mean I only suspect them. Don't you think there might be some mastermind behind all this? Doing good, love to see it. Rice for me and so and Silas coming up, so true. I genuinely thought that was the game and not your voice. Oh my god. No, I just love... There is voice acting in this game, but I love reading. I heart reading, so I'm reading all of this. A mastermind? Why do you say that? It's just a feeling. Think about what the word servant literally means. It means someone who serves as someone else's arms and legs, right? It was a bunch of Shiromiya family members who got killed. So naturally, there must be someone involved who stands to gain from that result. This was also plain and clear. Oh my god, Ava is like, think about it. Natsuhi, it's so funny because Ava's the, like, look at this. Ava's the only Ushiromiya kid who didn't get killed, right? And like, she literally claimed that she and Hideyoshi left the night before, right? Like, all of these people in these 2 columns were gathered in the dining room to discuss the inheritance, and just so conveniently, Ava and Hideyoshi say they left earlier, and now, guess what? The only legitimate Ushiromiya child of Kinzo is still alive, is Ava. Okay, but I bet Ava is trying to cast suspicion on Natsuhi right now, because that's what she's been doing this whole time. She's been like, Natsuhi, like, she's trying to, she's framing Natsuhi for this. She's literally framing Natsuhi for this.
Okay, just my hypothesis. This was also plain and clear. The Ushiromiya family had been right in the middle of discussions about how to distribute the inheritance when grandfather died. See, and like, look at this, right? Like, look at the people who are remaining, right? So there's Ava, Hideyoshi, her husband, and George, their kid. So these three are sort of like aligned together, right? And to entirely upstage, Natsuhi, Battler is actually quite an important, like, sort of like person here. If she can get Battler on her side, then, like, essentially, I think it would make sense. Like she could potentially, like, quote unquote, like, overthrow Natsuhi, right? Technically, I think Ava is actually on top, but also she doesn't live there, so I think the servants do. Okay, she's trying to say that, like, so Ava doesn't live there. Ava and Hideyoshi don't actually live there. They are visiting. So Ava is trying to say that Natsuhi, who the servants do kind of answer to, even though she doesn't have the crest of the one-winged eagle, she's saying that maybe Natsuhi's doing it, so Natsuhi will get the inheritance. And oh my god. yeah, gaslight gatekeep girl boss, get that inheritance. That's what I was saying. I was like, don't turn him against her. Literally. Entire line still alive. Sus? If this case followed the standard form of any classic mystery novel, the crime was definitely caused by someone with ties to the Ushiromiya family and who was involved in the inheritance problem. Aunt Ava had probably read a few books in that genre herself. Her argument may have had a few blind assumptions in it, but it was a standard conclusion that anyone might have reached. I think most people would end up suspecting the servants, even if they used different reasoning to get there. Especially the story about the key to the shutter. That made it very easy to suspect that one of the servants was involved. Right? And I don't think Ava would lie about the key, right? Like, she could be lying, but the wall of keys is something that's very easy for Battler to check if he should choose to do so. So I don't think she would lie about something like that. Yeah. We're just vibing here. We're just chilling, having a good time. I've never played this before. There's a couple people who have in the chat, but I think it's just great. We're just having a fun time here.
And that's why I don't like it.
What do you mean you don't like it?
Nah, just talking to myself.
I tried to dodge your question by joking, but I couldn't erase the sense of unease welling up inside me. After all, her conclusion was such an easy one to reach. A conclusion that anyone could reach. I just couldn't be satisfied with that. If I tried spinning the chessboard around like I'd learned from Kyrie-san, this was exactly why a servant couldn't possibly be the culprit. If the servants really were the culprits, they wouldn't hide the bodies in a place connected to themselves. Why on earth would they use the Rose Garden shed if they were the ones in charge of the key that could unlock it? Literally, are they stupid? Are they stupid? The police would probably immediately pursue whoever had been in control of the key. It was even possible that some other facts might come to light as a result. The more we think of the servants as the culprits, the less reason they had to carry the bodies into the storehouse. But what if they knew we'd think that, and put the corpses in the storehouse for that very reason? No, that's completely impossible. It's impossible. When the police come and inspect the scene of the crime, they'll probably be able to uncover many things. No matter how carefully the culprits carried out that murder, some traces will definitely be found. In other words, they had everything to lose and nothing to gain. If you think about it this way, and look at this murder game from the culprit's side, it's hard to imagine why they'd want to call attention to the corpses. Once the corpses were found,
It could result in someone sending a report to the police, or it might make the remaining people more cautious, or it might make the survivors start searching for the culprit. None of these things would make life any easier for the culprit. Well, I think, like, the multiple culprits but not being on the same page could be it, right? Like, maybe some of the culprits were like, yes, we want to keep this discreet, we want to keep this low-key, but maybe there was a traitor amongst them, and they wanted the bodies to be found, right? It's just like the shameless self-reference. You know what's crazy? Kanan and Shannon have the one-winged emblem themselves, literally. Shannon has one? Yes, on her thigh. Yes. Yeah, you literally respect women, but, right here. It's right here. Hard to see, when it's in black and white, but it's right here. Natsuhi literally has one on her heart. Natsuhi would stand to gain so little and lose so much from doing this or being involved. Literally, free my girl Natsuhi. Maybe someone's feeling guilty. The self-ref is so funny to me. It's just like the words of the main character's mother in a novel I read recently called Higurashi no Nakukoro ni. So true. Yeah, me when I read Higurashi when they cry. Not to interrupt, but some madman just climbed to the top of Taipei 101. Yeah. That's like bro just does that. Her outfit kills me. Yeah, what's with the, like, artistic rip to show her thigh, right? Every story needs to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Eliminating that beginning is essential for the perfect crime. Right now, we don't know where grandfather is. That is such a... What an interesting thought. Guy who's only read Higurashi when they cry. This is just like in Higurashi when they cry. This feels thematically important, so I'm writing it down. Every story has to have a beginning, middle, and end. Eliminating that beginning is essential for the perfect crime. Fascinating. If you have the motive, the crime follows, it's true. But I don't know if they're talking about a motive here. The middle and end mean nothing if the beginning cannot contextualize what comes next. Right? Like it... I always forget about the slit until there's like a full body shot, literally. Right now, we don't know where grandfather is. We don't know if he's already become a victim, or if he's one of the culprits. But this state of confusion must be beneficial to the killer. The culprit has absolutely nothing to gain by showing us the bodies in such an obvious way and making us all realize there's been a murder. In fact, this is the perfect place to, quote, spin the chessboard around. In other words, showing us the corpses in such a flashy way must be the culprit's goal in and of itself. So, at the very least, to the culprit, the appearance of 6 corpses there meant more than the deaths themselves. In other words, the culprit wanted this murder on display. To whom? To us. This is a message. Love analyzing the events surrounding me like a written story because real life is just like narratives, for sure, all the time.
It was sending a message. The culprit's trying to shove something in our faces. I don't know what it is. At this point in time, this vulgar mass murder isn't making me feel anything except a malice directed towards all of us. Malice towards all of us. Is it? Is it? Each one of the survivors has some kind of connection to one of the 6 victims. Uncle Krause's death brought Jessica the grief of losing a family member. The deaths of Dad and Kiryu-san brought me sorrow, while Aunt Rosa's death brought Maria sorrow. Did it? Did it though? Did it though? Did it though? Did it bring Maria sorrow? Longest forum thread? My life has themes for sure. And that's probably why they waited until they had all of the bodies collected in one location, at which point they drew attention to it. Goda-san's death probably shocked his fellow servants, and Shannon-chan's death brought grief both to George Anki, who had proposed to her, and Kanan-kun, who had loved her like an older sister. Everyone now on this island has received an equal amount of sadness. Aunt Ava was sure that the servants were in cahoots, but then, how could you explain the deaths of Goda-san and Shannon-chan? Yeah, well, okay, Goda I can understand. Goda's kind of an asshole. Everyone hates Goda. They needed them all of them there, and disfigured for shock. Me looking at the 3 hospital visits I had since 2026, but what could it mean? What could it mean? What could it mean? At any rate, by this argument, the grief caused by the 6 deaths hit everyone but Aunt Ava and Uncle Hideyoshi. I like how, like, the brotherly, sibling, sisterly bond between the Ushiromiyas is just not mentioned, because they're like, no, there's no grief. There's literally no grief. Even Aunt Ava, who had directed suspicion at the servants and acted as though she herself was beyond suspicion, could not be ruled out as a suspect. Thank you, Battler. Thank you, Battler. I would have been a little sad if you went along with what Ava had said. Your chronic illness themed real life. Mine is flood themed, by the way. Yeah. Shinra Apologist has gotten flooded twice. It's crazy. In the first place, she was able to argue that the servants were suspicious by focusing on the shutter's key. But if you look at it from a perspective of motive and who would gain, Aunt Ava's name rises to the top of the list. So true, Battler. You're so smart, Battler. Twice is what makes it insulting. Yeah, literally. Technically, my parents' basement also flooded when I was a kid, so 3 times. Literally flood-themed. Sole survivor stays winning. So true. I know what you're thinking, Battler-kun.
Oh no. Please don't tell anybody about how my head's so full of obscene stuff.
I'm the one who's going to gain the most from these murders. Since I'm going to be suspected anyway, I might as well get it out in the open. I tried to dodge the issue by joking around, but apparently it didn't work. The inheritance will be divided into as many parts as there are siblings. But right now, I'm the only one of the 4 left. All of the assets of the Ushiromiya family will become mine. Final girl behavior! Final girl behavior, so true! You can always try to dodge this issue by joking around, so true.
If Uncle Hideyoshi heard you, he'd say, "Could you give it a rest? It's not funny."
I'm sorry. I was just fooling around, since I'm going to be suspected anyway, no matter how much I try to smooth it over.
That's why, from my point of view, this murder might have been designed to cast suspicion on me. Unfortunately, my alibi for last night is weak. Could you tell me a bit more about last night? As you know, the discussion between the siblings of how to slice up and eat the inheritance continued until late in the night. But I don't know how late it lasted. My husband and I had woken up early that morning. We were so sleepy, and a little past midnight, they let us go. We then returned to the guest house and rested there. Can anyone other than Uncle Hideyoshi prove that? No, wait. It's not like I suspect you or anything. Okay.
She said, clock this tease, Satoshi Ashkechan. So true.
Oh, are you sure about that? I don't know if it counts as proof, but when we returned to the guest house, we were greeted by Genshi-san, who asked if we needed a towel. I think that should be enough to prove we returned to the guest house a little after midnight.
You just because you went to the guest house doesn't mean you couldn't have come out of it again. Just saying. This is tough. She could be real right now. She somehow just survived as the last. Like, she's the perfect person to frame, though, right? She is also the perfect person to frame. And, like, she does have a point that, like, if they were all ordered to do this, if the servants were all ordered to do this, right? It could have been Natsuhi. And it also could have been Kraus.
I don't know if it counts as proof.
But also, if she did it, I respect her, literally.
Though, if my theory was correct, the servants would all be in cahoots, and that wouldn't actually make for much of an alibi. Hey, you've got a point there. Guess that means I'm playing detective with the real culprit right now, huh? However, let me say this for my honor's sake. If I was after the inheritance, I'd never commit such a bizarre set of murders. After all, if I just wanted to make them forfeit their rights to the inheritance, it wouldn't matter to me how they died. It'd be much smarter of me to try and make their deaths look like accidents.
So true, girl.
Especially if you're assuming I laid out some careful plan that involved even the servants. You've got a point there. If you're killing someone for personal gain, you definitely shouldn't make it look like a murder. Exactly. That's why I'm in such a blue mood. The police will probably treat me like the mastermind and investigate all kinds of things. Not fun at all.
Yeah, if she gets framed, guess what? She loses her inheritance. Me if Sagisawa had gone rogue. Me if my princess went on a killing spree, that would be fine. Real, exactly, because if she had gotten caught, she'd lose inheritance rights. Literally. Aunt Ava shrugged with a bitter smile. It was just as easy to suspect Aunt Ava as it was to suspect the servants. So if we spin the chessboard around, does that make it impossible for the culprit to be her, suspicious as she is? However, if that sort of argument always works, then motive can never help us in any way. No, that can't be right. Knowing the motive must give us powerful clues towards knowing the culprit. That's why murderers from all time periods disguise crimes in complicated ways, cleverly preventing their motives from being discovered. I don't get it. Not fun at all, literally. So being so obvious as to leave herself and her family as the only survivors and sole inheritors? I think she's smarter than that. I just don't get it. Every time I spin the chessboard around, it keeps flipping from front to back and back to front. Yeah, I think here's the thing, right? Like where does the epitaph come into play, right? Because we're all treating this as a very inheritance motivated murder. But if it wasn't about the inheritance at all, and it was solely about the epitaph, then honestly, it wouldn't even make too much of a deal who died, right? They just needed the body counts. And it could just have been a convenient, like, situation where, like, there was just the right amount of bodies in the dining hall at the time, right? For Beatrice. Yeah. Making herself seem so obvious that she can very clearly claim she's been set up. And that would explain the service, that would explain the servants, literally. Are my thoughts bringing me closer to the truth? Or are they... Are they... Aunt Ava didn't want to talk any more than that, so I folded my arms and headed to the window to cool my head a little. As I looked over the parlor, I saw George, Aniki, and the others gathered, talking. It looked like they were talking about the magic circle that had been painted onto the shutter. Maria would have loved to see the magic circle. As Uncle Hideyoshi thought back to the time, he started drawing the shape in the margins of Maria's notebook. I see. Since Maria was second only to grandfather in knowledge of the occult, she might understand what it meant.
Huh. I think it was probably something like that. There was a mark that looked like a variation of a cross, and then surrounding the circle, all around the perimeter, were these closely packed, strange letters on all four sides of the cross, and written in the four corners, there was something written. It didn't look like the alphabet or something like that. It was what they call ancient characters. And around the top of the circumference, there was a small mark. 5 small circles arranged in a plus sign and straight lines connecting them.
Interesting. I didn't notice that. But, the first thing I think of when I think of that is, the first thing I think of is the king on the chessboard, right? It has that, the small cross on it. And I think, the cross that they were talking about in the circles also had that kind of shape. Oh, good night. It is bedtime. Good night, good night. Yay, good night. Thank you for coming, Silas. Let's be Tumblr mutuals. I will ask Silas later, and then, like, maybe you guys can be Tumblr mutuals. St. George's Cross is the symbol those circles reminded me of. So true.
Ah, yeah, there definitely was something like that drawn there. Yet, there's no mistaking the shape. I don't understand the thin characters, but the arrangement was nearly the same.
Everyone was staring down at the shape, so I stared down at it too. It's like dark at the top, so they don't show you the 5 small circles. From what I'd heard, this had been painted on the shutter to the storehouse with some material that looked like blood. I see. This sure is unsettling.
Grandfather's probably the only one who'd want to draw something this weird. Seriously, where did he go? I want to grab him and ask, what the hell is this supposed to mean?
Jessica's voice contained impatience and anger. She hadn't gone so far as to say grandfather was the culprit, but she seemed sure that grandfather knew something about the culprit's background. Of course, if you are searching for a link connecting the Ushiromiya family to the occult, 10 out of 10 people would think of grandfather. And to a person who knew nothing of the occult, the strange mark would have no meaning, which meant that this might have been something addressed to grandfather. Ooh, interesting. Interesting hypothesis. That's right. And the reason the crime was shown to the survivors was so they'd find this. In that case, where had grandfather, the essential recipient of this message, disappeared off to? Does this shape ring any bells?
Ugh.
Maria looked at the shape with a serious face. Sorry. Ooh. Maybe she was enthusiastic because this was her area of expertise. Howie, are you still in the chat? I'm about to do the monster voice, the MSM voice. However, her appearance was that of someone separated from the events at hand, as though this thing hadn't been drawn on the shutter closed around her mother's corpse. My first impression was that the design resembled a German cross.
Ah, it certainly does have that kind of design. Does it mean that it has something to do with Germany?
The German cross was originally a crest from a religious order of knights and was supposed to protect pilgrims traveling to sacred places. Oh my god! Wait, that's crazy! That's crazy! That's crazy! Hold on, hold on, hold on. Suppose the 6 are the pilgrimage. Suppose the 6 corpses are the people on the pilgrimage, and it's protecting them. So in other words, this magic circle might have some religious meaning? This is starting to sound like gibberish. Gibberish. So true. When I looked over at all of them, preparing to jump into the discussion, something shocked me. Maria was smiling, an eerie and incomprehensible expression on her face. It was almost as if she was making fun of everyone's ignorance. It was an expression I wouldn't have dreamed to find on Maria's face. And she laughed. That eerie, jarring laugh was something I didn't want to believe was possible, even though I was looking at it right in front of my eyes. Everything is about colonialism when you look deeper. Literally, I keep saying that. Like, I was like, the Western influences keep showing up in this story. And it's like, why? Yes! Yes, 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 yes. Finally, finally, finally. Fishy aroma mention. Fishy aroma mention. Are we all hearing this? Fishy aroma mention. Dun, dun, dun. Such a banger.
You people aren't even close. Can't you tell just by looking?
While everyone was busy being scared out of their wits, Maria kept on cackling happily by herself. After a while, that laugh was suddenly and abruptly cut off. But her expression still looked like it belonged to someone completely different from Maria.
This is the 7th magic circle of the sun. The characters are written in Hebrew. Give it here.
Sure.
Maria stole the writing materials from the stunned Hideyoshi's hand. She then started drawing another magic circle with a rustle right next to the one Hideyoshi had drawn. See? It looked sort of like this, right? Yes. It was, yes. Maria. Incredible. You really do know a lot. Jessica tried to smooth things over by praising Maria. Maybe she wanted to confirm that this was still the Maria we all knew so well. But Maria didn't answer her in any way in particular. Maria began swiftly writing unfamiliar characters in the corner of the shape. When Uncle Hideyoshi and Dr. Nanjo saw them, their eyes immediately began to open wide. Written on the top and bottom and left and right are the names of the angels who preside over wind, fire, earth, and water. Chasan, Arel, Forlok, and Talyahan. And in the four corners are the names of the four great kings. Ariel, Seraph, is it Tar or Thar? Tartus and Sharu. Is this what you saw? Even if they hadn't been able to correctly write what they'd seen, when they were once again shown something identical, it wasn't difficult for them to realize that the two were the same. When Maria asked them whether it matched, Uncle Hideyoshi and Dr. Nanjo nodded over and over again. Evil magic Hebrew, sad face. There's no mistaking, that's it. I'm sure there were characters that looked like that. How were you able to write something like that? There are also characters written around the circumference. I know. Like this, right? Maria quickly began to surround the circumference with more Hebrew writing. It's from Psalms of the Old Testament, the 16th and 17th verses of the 116th Psalm. You must have at least read the Bible, right? Surely you read the Bible! Acting as though knowing this was only common sense, Maria laughed. She's been freed from her chains, literally. For a while, everyone, including me, was at a loss for words. A little later, George Aniki returned to his senses and slowly managed to speak. That's incredible. I'm surprised. So, what meaning does this magic circle have? It's a magic circle to borrow the power of the sun. He who wears it as a talisman drawn in gold shall be able to break free from the bonds of any prison and receive the power to gain freedom. It's so interesting because, you know, Beatrice is described as like the witch, the master of Rokkenjima at night, right? And so it's like borrowing the power of the sun, so to give her the ability to move about in the day, right? Something like that. He who wears it as a talisman drawn in gold shall be able to break free from the bonds of any prison and receive the power to gain freedom. Interesting. The Lord has freed me from my chains. To break free from bonds and gain freedom? It sounds deep. The word bonds is not limited in its interpretation to some kind of physical object. Therefore, it does not only hold meaning for people locked up in an actual jail. It can also refer to the release from mental bonds such as ties of obligation and inescapable fate. Interesting.
Ties of obligation. Drawing upon the power of sun works in a typhoon. Thinking.
Ties of obligation and inescapable fate, you say? It's also pretty deep. But I don't really understand. What does this have to do with those 6 bodies? Far from being released, they were killed and stuffed in a storehouse, weren't they? It's not like the magic circle was drawn for their sakes. The 6 of them were there for the 6 of them were there for the sake of the magic circle. It is truly pitiable.
Right? What if Maria was released? This switch up is insane and only occurred at the death of Mother, who is now behind that seal. And I think it's interesting. Like, she did kind of get like this when she was reading out that letter as well, right? They were the sacrifices. Hearing about bodies being stuffed gave me FNAF flashbacks, literally. That they were used fuel, they were used fuel for the seal, literally.
What do you mean? What in the world do you mean when you say the 6 of them were there for the sake of the magic circle?
Maria lifted up her pointer finger and waggled it as if she were making fun of us.
That's written around the circumference. Can't you read it? Psalms chapter 116, verses 16 and 17. I'll read it for you. The Lord has freed me from my chains. I will offer to you the sacrifice of thanksgiving and will call on the name of the Lord. See?
See, you say? I've got no idea what you're talking about. Oh my god, you said that earlier. You looked it up. The Lord has freed me from my chains.
You're saying they're human sacrifices?
If what Maria had just read aloud was a vital part of the magic circle. Let me see, okay. If what Maria had just read aloud was a vital part of the magic circle, then it was saying that sacrifices had to be offered in order for this magic circle to be effective. They're trying to summon Beatrice, so human sacrifices had been offered inside the storehouse where the magic circle had been drawn. A heartbeat later, everyone else seemed to reach the same conclusion. When she taunted them for not knowing the Bible, I was like, wait, I know Psalms. Oh my god, you're so Bible-pilled. Some were shocked, and others spat out that this was insane as they punched their knees. This was starting to get incredibly disturbing, and we couldn't accept it or understand it. I don't care what kind of magic circles or curses other people believe in. I won't pick a fight with them. But did they really kill Dad and the rest as sacrifices for crap like that? I just couldn't stand that feeling. Compared to this, I preferred it when we were still disgusted by that theory about the fight over the inheritance. As I started getting pissed off with a feeling between anger and sadness, I broke from the circle everyone was in and returned once again to the window. Something had gone insane since yesterday. I'm crying at being caught Bible-pilled. I'm denying Bible knowledge forevermore. It's okay, it's what allows us to have goated analysis of bourbon.
There is that letter from the witch, Beatrice, that Maria had read aloud at last night's dinner. Ever since that point, it feels like we've... No, like this whole mansion and this whole island have been getting more and more firmly locked inside some kind of bizarre world. That's right. When I think back on it, that letter was an invitation from the witch. The ruler of the nighttime island had invited us inhabitants of the day into another world. The phone and radio had been interrupted, and the island was shut off by the typhoon, so you really could call this place another world cut off from the real one by now. Yeah, as this island is now, it's perfectly normal for a witch to send us letters and for human sacrifices to be offered up for the sake of magic circles.
Starting to get incredibly disturbing as opposed to when it wasn't with the murders in the shed to begin with. Lamau! Literally!
So what will happen next? Will some weird people get wearing goat masks, start doing the Bone Festival dance or something? Ah, it's hopeless, it's hopeless. I don't get it. The inside of my head's all screwed up and I don't even know what to think. Anger. Sadness. The opposing emotions all swirled up together, and they started to suck me in. Unable to resist, I could do nothing but cover my eyes with my hands and trust to my mind and body as I started getting sucked in.
Not the inheritance not being important and it turning into, like, witchcraft. Literally. Okay, I'm starting to get tired. So I think I'm going to call it here. I'm going to save it. I'm going to save it here. I will probably go get lunch now since I am, like, literally #hungry. But thank you all for chilling with me in this beautiful Umi stream. I had so much fun. Hopefully I'll be able to stream some more in the future, but, you know, no promises. But, yeah, I'm really happy to have found the bodies at last, and it's intriguing, and I'm excited, and I can't wait for more murders to happen. So good night, everyone. I love you all. And, like, okay, how many people do we have here? Thanks for having us. Yeah, let's see how many people we have here and see if, you know, I'm tired. I'm not rating. I'm not rating. I'm just going to end the stream and we will all be happy, okay? Local streamer advocating for murder? Okay, well, good night, everyone. I hope you all had a great time. I hope you'll be able to join me for the next one. Bye-bye.